read from a story called Goes Without Saying, an excerpt from a story, I should say, and I'll read the beginning part. But I'm very excited to be part of this series. I'm excited that I'm kind of, James and I are the opening acts for the band. And what I didn't know until just a couple days ago is that this is the Caribbean sort of CD release party. And oddly enough, the story tonight that I'm reading from opens at a CD release party. So there's a little story serendipity here. Since the opening, there's not really a whole lot to say other than the main character is named Stir, but it's short for Alistair, so don't be thrown when you hear the name Stir. And there's also a secondary character who makes an appearance and speaks in the first person through journal entries, and I think that's pretty well delineated, but I'll try to indicate it or tug at my ear when it's one of those moments. But hopefully you'll be able to follow that along. So thank you again for being here. This Goes Without Saying. Goes without saying. His eardrums surly and clopping from temporary tinnitus, brought on by the night's CD release party. Stir trudged from his apartment's front door to the kitchen in search of a fizzy drink. His young son Philip sat beside the TV, hours past bedtime. He didn't even twitch at his dad's arrival, enraptured instead by Ad TV, a network with no original programming, airing ceaseless commercials from the past. A vintage spot of twins giggling at their reflections in bowls of Jell-O. Morgan Fairchild modeling capri pants on a set salvaged from HR Pufnstuf. Not loud enough? Stir asked Philip irritably, standing behind him. Clutching the remote like a rope, he amplified the TV set's volume from 19 to 90. Philip still didn't acknowledge Stir was in the room. "This New Year's," warned a thin-lipped, uniformed man identified on screen as Sergeant Marsh of the NYPD. "Kindly refrain from firing your pistols in the sky, because you know what? Bullets land." Stir boosted the bass. Above his convection oven, a mobile of scuffed CDs shivered. Waves of sound pitched the discs together. "Still not enough for you, son? The only orange juice proven to fight halitosis." Stir fished a lemon wedge out of his drink, squeezing it so its acidic spray would catch Philip in the eye. "Pay attention to me," he muttered. Philip flinched, then shucked the juice off his face, but otherwise remained as he had been, sitting zazen through thumping jingles until his father admitted defeat, took shelter in his seltzer water, and left the room. Most of the party's memories already seemed dim to Stir. How long had the band played? Did Stir ever grab dinner? The facts were defiant suspects who wouldn't pull forward in a police lineup. Stir remembered his wife yelling at him when he'd left for the party. All evening, he'd clung to the club's open bar, shut his mouth between sips, slipped to the john just before leaving. When his cell phone rung out in the bathroom, Stir had frisked his jacket. But of course he ditched his cell behind. The thing would have been a house arrest bracelet. Melanie calling every half hour, apologizing, venting, then demanding apologies. It took 5 rings for him to understand where the ring was coming from. A chorus from the 1960s. "Do you believe in magic?" Or "Did you ever have to make up your mind?" Not that those dreary ringtones soared like songs anyway. They were barely taxiing on the sonar runway. Didn't matter. Only one party attendee used the Lovin' Spoonful for his ringtone. So even before Stir checked the voicemail, he had a fair inkling why he'd had to retrieve his boss's phone from the bottom of a trash can stuffed with soapy hand towels and beer-dampened napkins. "Alistair, can I refill your glass?" The offer was for show, as was Stir's mulling of it. Arnie had clearly wished Stir hadn't stopped by at all, especially not with a discarded phone in hand. "Got pepper-flavored Stoli in the icebox. They don't even distribute that stuff stateside." "When were you in Russia, Arnie?" "Wasn't. This is bottled in Kazakhstan. Went over for our 2nd anniversary." Stir had nodded while praising his boss's loft. Arnie, VP of A&R at Opening Act Records, had worked with sound all his life, but except for a piano relegated to a corner, dull with dust, subservient seeming, like a busker begging for tourist tips, there were no traces of music. No street noise bled through Arnie's arched windows, and a low-beamed ceiling made Stir feel he'd stumbled into a Buddhist temple, that any idle talking would be a transgression.